episodes from my life. This one I've only just, this is the first time I've performed it. It's a true story. I've just changed the names of the people, but it's a true story. It's called The Ransom That Never Was. My tale begins in the 80s in London's flea market, Portobello Road, where I made a living selling antique collectibles for 25 years. One of my many themes was perfume. I would have French packaging and miniature perfume bottles from 1900 to 1940 and empty or almost empty French perfume bottles from the Roaring '20s. One Saturday, an elderly, very dowager-esque English lady approached me, searching in vain for the original 1928 bottle of the famous fragrance Soie de Paris by Bourgeois. From then on, Mrs. Parker Knowles would appear every Saturday morning, wistfully scanning my shelves with the expressive magpie bright eyes. Over time, I asked her why she wanted to acquire that specific cobalt blue bottle. She told me her husband had wooed her, presenting her with the enticing fragrance when they first met in Harrods on the perfume counter in Buenos Aires, when she was a young girl. Mrs. Parker Knowles was Anglo-Argentinian, as her father, Mr. Hill, managed the construction of the Pacific Railways. She fell hopelessly in love and married her dashing polo-playing husband, Jules Parker Knowles, and moved forever and a day to an imposing house in Holland Park. After a happy and successful marriage, her husband died, leaving her a widow with their 2 children. Lucy, her only daughter, had bought the first UK body shop franchise in Portobello Road, and so she would combine the flea market with a cuppa every Saturday afternoon with her successful, enterprising daughter. She invited me to her cosy, downsized flat next door to Julie's wine bar in Holland Park, and proudly spoke of her diplomat son, Charles, at the British Embassy in BA, who played polo at Hurlingham and knew all the right people. He would visit her from time to time in London, and she would wait excitedly for his visit. I was concerned when, after a year of seeing her almost every Saturday, this charming lady, the epitome of Englishness, failed to appear. Months passed. Nada. I never once thought to visit her daughter or phone to see if she was unwell, thinking perhaps she'd died. Then about a year later she appeared, but she was not the same. Her facial features had changed considerably. She had aged beyond belief, looking about 90. I could see the anguish and stress in her face. Gone was the friendly smile, the bright eyes, and in their place a wizened, bloodshot-eyed, hunched-up, very elderly lady, looking at least 10 years older than she was. Her spirit had been broken. I didn't dare ask what she'd suffered. I waited for an invitation to tea at her flat. It was in the privacy of her home that she told me Charles had been ambushed on his way to work by persons unknown. According to his chauffeur, he was dragged from the embassy car into a waiting, blacked-out, sinister limo with no number plates by 3 men at gunpoint and a coffee bag sack thrown over his head. That was the last anyone saw of him alive. A typed note with cut-out pasted letters was sent to her via the British Embassy to wait by the phone for further instructions. In a panic, she immediately flew to BA with Lucy and was housed at the embassy by the ambassador himself, who had been a personal friend of her late husband. It was the waiting game, but the phone call never came. No further communication. Silence. The days turned into weeks, The weeks turned into months. Lucy had to return to her profitable business, and so La Signora was forced to return to her flat with only her collection of perfume bottles to console her. She told me the worst agony was not knowing if her son was really dead, to be able to close the circle and give Charles an honourable burial. I never saw Mrs. Parker-Knowles again, and I am sure she died of a broken heart. I never even knew her first name.